an intro of our guests.
Kate, do you want to get rid of the conservation conversations? Perfect. All right, so my name is Bridget Sanderson. I am the Director of Environment Missouri, based out of Kansas City. Thank you again all so much for coming to Conservation Conversations. We just wanted to kind of bring people together and start talking about nature and, you know, planet Earth and everything that we love about it and what we can do to continue to protect it. We do have Facebook Live going on right now, so thank you for coming in from Facebook Live. If you have any questions, we will be asking them all at the end. So if you're on the webinar, just type them in the chat or the Q&A. And then if you're on Facebook Live, just go ahead and type it in the comment section and we will check on those as well. So Kate, take it away.
Awesome, thanks. So we are really excited today. I think that the theme we have this week is so perfect for Earth Week. It just worked out so beautifully that we were able to have these specific guests on for Earth Week. Chris and Wonok are the brains and beauty and brawn behind Eye on Sligo Creek, which is a wonderful organization that they've started that I think was born out of this knowledge that we all connect to nature in different ways, and we find something that we love and we care about, and we can be stewards of the natural world in any way that resonates most with us. And so Chris is a journalist by trade. He has also served with environmental nonprofits as communications director and public affairs manager, and was the managing editor for a paper. And so he is bringing such a unique skill set. Wonok is a data analyst and does some amazing work for the government, I believe, in DC, and is also a really impressive nature photographer. And so getting to talk to Chris before this webinar, it was just so fascinating to hear about how they are taking their interests and their skills and what they have to offer, are looking at this piece of the world that they care so deeply about, and are saying, you know, each of us is responsible for protecting our piece. And so I think I'm so excited to turn it over to them. Prepare to be inspired and empowered to go out and make a difference. I know I'm already excited. So I'm going to let them take it away. Thank you both for being here. And just as a quick reminder to everyone who's on, they will put up their website and things after. And we all, as always, encourage you to go visit all of their websites and social media to get a better idea of the specific work they're doing. So Chris and Wonok, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We are so fired up and excited to be here. When I get this excited about something, my Southern drawl tends to get replaced by something like a New York staccato. So if I start going too fast, just put up the air brakes. It just comes from enthusiasm and love. As you were saying, by way of quick introduction, my background is in journalism and communications, and first career in journalism, trying to work my way back. And I've also worked with the Trust for Public Land and the Wilderness Society. And currently I'm co-founder of EyeOnSligoCreek.com with
the Wonok team, the other co-founder, and my role for the EyeOnSligoCreek.com is the primary photographer, and I represent the IT department.
and the web designer.
Yeah.
So we had mentioned to Kate a while back that if anybody ever got the flu and she needed somebody to fill in, we'd be happy to step up. And then I sort of sheepishly said, but you know, then again, we're just one little website covering one little creek, and almost apologetically. And then Kate said something that I'll never forget. And she told me, and this is a quote from her as a former quasi-journalist now, I got to get the quote right, but she said, everybody protecting their stretches of their little creeks is going to be what saves the world. And that hit me in the old heart muscle, and also helped us start thinking about our site in a broader context. So in the next minutes, we're going to honor Kate's words and talk about how people can tap into their creative genius to speak up for the lands that they care about in their own backyard, particularly the ones that don't get the love and the attention that some of the bigger places do. it might for you be something as simple as taking one tweet, taking a picture and tweeting it and being surprised by the reaction that it gets. Or you can create a multimedia website that completely takes over your life, which is what we decided to do. So we're going to go through our presentation, hopefully in less than 20 minutes, and then really use the other 20 to hear from the other people that are on the call and start brainstorming with you and see if we can help play a role in getting some light bulbs to go off. Because if we could somehow end this conversation and as a result, other people said, oh, there's an idea we could use, and you did something creative for Mother Nature, we would be so, so excited and honored, and hope you share it with us too. So with that said, we're going to kind of do a little bit of show and tell here, and we're going to hop into our first slide and walk you through a little bit about what we've been up to here in Silver Spring, Maryland, along Sligo Creek and the Anacostia River tributary trail system. Last December, Wonok and I were going for our daily walk, and we've lost the slide already. Can you guys see a slide of two people by the creek?
Nope.
Not yet. Just.
You'll press that little share, that little green share button in the middle.
Oh, yeah. That's what we missed.
Can you see it now?
Yep,
Yeah.
there you are.
All right.
Okay.
You good? All right, we're good, right? We're good?
Just a second. I need to change the slideshow. 1 second.
We are not professional slideshow people.
Okay, good.
All right, can you see us? Or the slide? Thumbs up? Fantastic. So it's December last year, and we're going for our daily walk by the creek and the retention ponds. And sort of just an idea sort of hit me in a flash. And I thought to myself, this creek has been so good to us. We need to do something to give back to us, to it. And I turned to Wonok and said, hey, babe, why don't we use your talents in photography and web design and mine in writing and storytelling and create a new multimedia website that really shares the awe of this creek and everything we love about it. Let's tap into our creative talents for what they're worth and try to give something back. Really getting at the idea of the awe of Sligo Creek. Because even though our creek is just a humble little creek, it's just filled with awe, as it is in every creek, in every place that people love. And Wonok said, sure, she was in, not quite fully understanding what she was getting herself into, but the idea really was to figure out how we can share the transformative power of nature. Now, that's a great phrase, and as a writer, I'd love to think I came up with it, but I do have to give $1 to the friend of mine every time I use it because he came up with it. But the transformative power of nature. And for us, that meant, let's just start creating content first. Let's not really worry about anybody reading it or anybody looking at it or even what the site is going to look like. And we spent the first 3 months just photographing and writing and recording everything that we could. The creek means so much to us in so many ways. Sad story, but it ended up well. I got some blood clots and almost died. Blood clots to the lungs. But one of the things that kept me going was the idea of getting back out on the Sligo Creek Trail. Later, when Wonok and I got married, we didn't want to spend big bucks on a wedding. That's not our style. We decided, let's just get some friends together. Let's get our family together, meet at our house, and go for a walk in the woods. And we went for a walk on the woods and walked down to what we call the wedding ponds. That's not actually what they're called on the county map, but the wedding ponds to us. And we got married right there with some, no herons there that day, but plenty of Canada geese and mallards. So the trail for us and the creek and the whole system is just sort of a part of our hearts. It's an extra heart valve muscle. And I don't really know where we would be without it. It's hard for me to even speak about it sometimes without getting choked up. So flash forward an entire week later, January 1st, New Year's Day, about 9 o'clock in the morning, we decide we're going to go out for our first official walk. We didn't have a name for the website yet. That would come to us later. We just wanted to go out and maybe get one good picture. If we could get one good picture and maybe write a few hundred words, we were going to consider that a good day. And we had no idea what was waiting for us on the trail that day. We get out to the wedding ponds and look over and see something we don't often get to see out there, this sweet, old, beautiful blue heron. Now, every one of you who loves blue herons, I'm sure everyone on this call does, you know they're not super excited about you walking up close to them. And if you pull out a camera with a telephoto lens, they're gone. But I think this one somehow understood what we were doing, and she wanted to help us with this new project, because there was a moment, and we were with her. She honestly let us stay within a reasonable distance of her for 2 hours. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. And at one point, she looked over at us and cast that big, beautiful yellow eye straight at us, and then turned her head and cast an eye on Sligo Creek. And I got goosebumps in that moment. And I knew that we had the name for our new website, eyeonsligocreek.com. And we came home and just started writing and editing photos to get going. Again, not knowing what the site would look like, but not letting things like details slow us down. Over the next few months, we did all kinds of things out there exploring the trail. We met another great blue heron. This one, we gave a name to. We gave a name to the first one we met, the one who we saw on January 1st, and we had to name her Anna, as in Miss Anna Kostya, like the river. I have a thing for naming animals. I don't know if they respond to them or not. That's just what I do. But the next heron we met, we named him Norm, like Norm from Cheers, because he was this big-bellied heron, came in, swooped down out of the sky, so gregarious, like Norm stepping down into the bar at Cheers. And it seemed like within minutes, he reached in, yanked a fish out of the water, flipped it around his jaws. Wonok's firing away on the camera, and she captures this amazing picture of a very happy heron and a very frightened fish. I didn't feel too bad for the fish. I'm more of a heron guy than a fish guy. And these things started happening in a place we go to every day, and hardly ever experiencing something this amazing. But when we started opening our eyes and ears in a different way, all this stuff just started to find us. Not too long after that, we got involved with our local Friends group, Friends of Sligo Creek, which does a lot of great stewardship projects and tongue twister. It's an existing organization is what I'm trying to say. And we decided to go put in some sweat equity into the creek and also go into embedded reporter mode, doing a comprehensive multimedia story. And our favorite part of the story, folks, if you get a chance later, go to, first of all, the next slide. And you got to see the video interview with this young man, a Boy Scout, who gave up his Saturday to come out there and help us. And the video interview he did with us, unprompted and with no help from his dad, choked me up on the camera then, and it choked me up now. You'll absolutely love it, and you'll want to share it. He's an inspiration. Another day, we're going out for a walk on the trail. We kind of just start talking to random strangers. We see this woman walking with a dog. We're not shy. We stick our nose in her business and say, hey, can we talk to you a little bit about for this new website that we haven't even launched yet? She said, sure. Her name was Jackie. Her dog's name was Stella. And she tells us this amazing story that the reason she moved into our neighborhood was because she wanted to move to a place that had access to nature and a trail for a dog she had not even adopted yet. She had it in her heart that she was going to rescue animals, and she wanted a happy place to spend her life with them. So we had to write about her. It was great. By the way, I don't know if you guys ever have this problem, but I've spent sometimes 3 weeks putting these comprehensive essays together. What does my dad say when he calls? Oh, really love the story about the dog, the one that took 40 minutes to write. So thanks, Dad. Another day out after a hard rain, we're going out, we're doing our walk, and waiting for that slide to change. And we see, we only rehearsed this about 5 times. We'll try to get these slides up to speed. We look over at the ponds, and I don't know how we hadn't really ever noticed this before, but after every hard rain, like I'm sure happens in your neighborhood, the creeks and the ponds just got filled with pollution, and it was heartbreaking that it happened in a couple hours. By coincidence, the next day we get an email inviting us to go down to the Capitol. We live close to DC here in Silver Spring, Maryland, to find out about, first of all, a documentary that aired the story of plastic, and maybe some of you just saw it on the Discovery Channel. And then a few days after that, the official bill launched for the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. Now, I know this is something Environment Maryland and Environment America is working very hard on, and maybe they'll touch on that in a little bit. But this issue became very personal for us very quickly, and we wrote a whole bunch of stuff on it for our site. And then the coronavirus hit. So we haven't really been able to go back to it since then. Not really an appropriate time to be making environmental asks for us at the moment. So we do hope that people will go back to this story when life goes back to something resembling normal. But on a lighter side, just last week, we're walking down a trail. I see another bicycler. I'm a biker, and said, "Hey, what's your story?" And we started talking, and the guy tells us this story about getting into a major biking accident because he got hit by an owl. Now, you need to know the owl was unharmed, so don't worry about the rest of this story. The guy got fairly severely hurt. I shouldn't laugh, but he's laughing now. It was an amazing story. I said, "Hey, I know you just met us 2 minutes ago, but can you repeat exactly that story and let us record it on video so that we can share it with the world?" And he did, and it was great. So we hope you see the video ultimately about the guy getting hit by an owl. Now, we wouldn't be real nature lovers if we didn't start to share the things that aren't Winnie the Pooh and aren't Bambi. We're all outside. We see some kind of gross things, like some vultures picking to pieces a possum. But it was real, and it was raw. And there's something beautiful somehow, even in the bloody stuff. So with all of that, we decided, we've got enough. Let's go ahead and launch this site. The business that I run is kind of going down the drain like everybody else's business in America right now. So I suddenly had a lot of free time, and the idea was to try to use that time to do some good. So we got our social media accounts up, and we got our website up. And, our goal honestly was, if we can get our parents and 2 other people to look at our videos and read our stories, that would be great. But the more we thought about it, we thought, let's really go for something big. Let's just put our heart and soul into this and see what happens. And it's been really amazing. And one of the first takeaways from this is that our life experience has been that when you put your heart into something and the universe knows that you're doing it for the right reasons, it tends to want to help you. So we've had a lot of really awesome stuff happen to us already as a result of our site and our efforts that we're making. So where I want to kind of transition to now is, let's start talking about different elements of creativity. And really, I'm really hoping that the light bulbs start to go off. We're going to kind of break these down one at a time and then open it up. People often ask, like, how can I get started doing something creative? I'm not necessarily a creative person, or they don't think about themselves that way. I think we're all creative, and we all have something inside of us. We just have to tap into it. My recommendation is start with writing in a journal. If you've never written a sentence in your life, if you've never picked up a journal, if you've never picked up a scrap of paper and written your thoughts down, give it a try. I started doing it when I was about 15. I'm on about page 18,500 as we speak. And so many of those pages are filled with stuff that happened in Sligo Creek. So pick up a journal, go out into the woods, even take some notes and write when you get home if you want. and just open your eyes and open your ears and really go out there with the intention of remembering and recording what you're seeing. What happens is the same walk that you've done every single day suddenly starts to change when you pay specific enough attention to it with the intention of sharing it. So journal writing is a great place to start, but maybe you're a photographer, or maybe you'd really aspire to do some photography. That's a great place to start. You can start with your phone. You can start with some nicer camera equipment if you want to spend a few bucks, but you can really get going in a simple way. Now, everybody sort of takes selfies and their shots, but the idea of continuing to go out to a place that you love over and over and over, and seeing it through a camera or listening to it through an audio recorder that we've purchased. We're going to start recording the sounds of Sligo Creek. It really changes your perspective. We actually met a neighbor of ours that we didn't know about, who I'll come back to in a second. Yeah, she does something amazing. She's a photographer, a portrait photographer, but instead of just taking her clients and putting them in a studio and shooting the same boring shots that every other photographer takes, she brings her clients out to Sligo Creek and puts them in a natural environment and makes her living with these portraits with her family, Jonah, as you'll see up here. And her shots are amazing. We wanted to include some, but didn't want to end up getting Environment America sued for using somebody's photograph without their permission. But why don't we just take a second, and why don't you give people just come on over, come on all the way over, and just share like a couple of quick tips for people who may not have the luxury of getting out in the woods every day. What are 2 or 3 things they can do just to get this train started?
Sure. First of all, I need a disclaimer. This is not something that I created or I discovered. This is something that I learned from other people, and it's something that you can easily search from, internet, Google. But I'm going to just share make it brief, a few things I thought was really kind of helpful to me and important. You love to take photos of nature, wildlife. There's the golden hour rule. Many of you probably know that, right before sunrise, right after sunrise, and right before sunset is the best time to take photos. And 30 minutes before sunrise, 60 minutes after sunrise, 60 minutes before sunset, and 30 minutes after sunset. This is what I learned from my photographer teacher. Because the angle of the sun is low, and the light makes everything so beautiful and gold and sparkling. So that then sky increase the texture and color that makes a lot of things more clear and sharper and pretty. The next one, the photograph, especially when you when you want to take a photograph for wildlife, it's really important to think about taking photos at eye level. Whatever camera you use, that makes the image much sharper, but most importantly, it just makes it very intimate and closer to the animal. As you look down something versus you looking at right next to each other, that makes it look a lot intimate and better. So that's kind of some good rule that I learned.
What's your third tip? That third one looks pretty important to me.
Right. This isn't patience. It's not an option, but it's just a necessity. If you really want to take a photo, you have to be very patient. I was trying to take some photo of this, the kingfisher the other day, and I've been waiting for 10 minutes and not moving. The moment I move, of course, the bird knows it and moves. So this is a kind of constant, struggle. But if you're really patient, you're gonna happen to catch really good moments.
Yeah, I have to say that part of this project too has really been a lesson in patience. If you are not someone who is naturally blessed with an abundance of that, trying to do nature photography, just go out and spend a couple hours without moving, waiting for the wildlife to come to you. You'll learn some patience. But maybe you're someone who just likes to tweet. Well, everybody knows sometimes you can catch a little bit of wildfire with the right tweet, especially if you include a photo of it. Just kind of lost track of days because like everybody else, nobody knows what day it is anymore. But sometime within the last week, we tweeted out our story about the vultures, the ones that we showed you the pictures of earlier. After that, we ended up running across multiple Twitter feeds dedicated to vultures. We didn't think they had that big of a fan following. But one, DC Vultures, or Vultures of DC, retweeted an expert that you'll see on our screen at Sackett_Badola, who shared some knowledge about vultures that we then edited into our story. We sent the expert and Vultures of DC a tweet calling them out, thanking them for the knowledge. And very quickly, we got this amazing string of notes back from this expert who doesn't know us from anybody, thanking us for what we were doing and encouraging us to keep going forward in our work. And then he tweeted it out to his 5,000 followers. That was a really cool day for us. And now we have kind of lost track of the slides again. Where?
The next.
Oh, sorry. I saw our Facebook page and I thought we were back to Environment Maryland. I got it. Yeah, appreciate that. So naturally we had to create a Facebook page because how could we have met Environment America if we didn't have a Facebook page already? So you can create one of those fairly quickly. And all you have to do is start telling some of your friends. And if you want to spend a little bit of money on Facebook advertising, you'd be amazed at how much traction you can get on your Facebook site for a $50 ad. You can get it going that way. Maybe blogging's your thing. You can pick out one of the places where you can get a template, keep it really simple to start with, and just start writing whatever's in your heart and sharing it. Again, don't worry about whether or not you'll become the next Henry David Thoreau. I've been writing for 35 years and nowhere near Henry David Thoreau level yet, but I am wearing my "In Wildness is the Preservation of the World" t-shirt. Maybe you're a painter. We had an occasion a while back where we looked down at some manhole covers and saw that somebody had worked it out with our county to paint the manhole covers with these great environmental messages, educating people about the pollution that goes into the drains. So everybody that walks by them sees some beautiful art and then gets a powerful message. Not too long ago, I was out at a lake that's at the end of the Anacostia River tributary trail system, Lake Artemisia in College Park. And all of a sudden I saw these murals on the bathroom walls. You can see from the photo, this has always been just a brick outhouse. And now it's this place that has a mural of the actual lake. Absolutely gorgeous. So many things that people are doing. Maybe you want to be the next great podcaster. We hope to start doing that for EyeOnSligoCreek.com soon, but grab a microphone, start interviewing people, create some podcasts. Maybe video is your thing. Shoot some video, get somebody together to work with you if they are good at editing videos. Start putting stuff out there. We did a video, the owl video, the owl crasher guy somehow got 250 views. Then we just did one of Mama Goose outside, who's so close to laying eggs. We hope we can capture the moment. That's got 300 views. Maybe poetry is your thing. We kind of ran out of slides at about midnight last night. So that's me thinking very poetic thoughts. I do actually still sometimes write with a quill feather pen. Get some poetry down. I put some together, threw them up on our website, created a poets lounge on our website. If you write poetry that relates to nature and we can tie it into the creek and the river, send it to us. We'd love to publish it. I submitted one of my poems to the County Department of Environmental Protection when they put out a call for poetry, and they just included it in a coloring book they put out for kids this week that people can download. So my poem about a chubby little robin is now attached to a coloring book for kids that people are going to download and hopefully inspire the next generation of nature lovers. It's really cool for us. Other ideas abound. If there's already a friends group for the place you care about, go to that group. They need all the help they can get. If you go to them and say, I'd like to start writing, photographing, doing videos, tweeting, Facebook, any talent that you have, might like to have, aspire to have, I guarantee you that they can use that help. If there's not a friends group already, start one. Whole other enterprise, a lot more work, but the options are truly endless. So we are really trying to just see where this takes us. We're trying to be everywhere right now. With being unemployed does have its benefits. We'd love for you to follow us on our social media, but really at this point, we're hoping, can we get out of the, this at this point? Get out of there and get back to the folks, and just see if we can start brainstorming with you. Anybody out there that has any idea, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? How can we help? And let's see, are there any questions out there? I hope so.
Yeah. There are, and I want to say first, thank you all. That was I have been blown away by every picture you've shown. You have to know, my mom and I have been sitting here like, oh my gosh, look at that. That's incredible. And so we do have a question. The first question that I see here is, what is your favorite type of camera to use to capture wildlife?
So
Come on over. Let them see your whole face.
So first of all, I actually, amateur photographer. I'm not even, probably close to novice. I took only a few very basic class, but I'm going to show you my camera. Actually, this is just a kind of a Canon EOS, the 90D that came out last year. 90D. They came out last year. And I just used to have this Canon camera. So I have a personal preference with the Canon, but a lot of people, photographers, absolutely love Nikon. And I think there are just so many different versions that has a more sophisticated, but also there are lots of cameras out there that much lighter, smaller, but has a really good for nature photography. So let me say that way.
And we didn't start with this. We started simple, and she's being a little modest. She got some pretty good photography experience a few years ago when I got us a part-time job covering pro tennis. And with her camera equipment at the time, she was able to get outstanding photographs of a little guy. You might have heard of him, Roger Federer, who we had a chance to interview and meet in person, which was completely unrelated to nature. But we started just photographing stuff locally about our local college teams. And it led to opportunities for us to start doing other things for bigger pubs. That's part of what's so awesome. If you just start creating about Mother Nature, there's an audience out there for you. You will find those people and they will find you. And you'll start getting more and more opportunities for people to experience your stuff and share your passion and make a difference.
And I think what's also important is that just open mind. You're learning every day. I mean, every time I go out, I realize that, I learned this, I have to be more patient, or I have to kind of predict where the bird is gonna move. So kind of, I feel like I'm learning everything, and every single time I try to take camera, and that's a very important kind of approach.
To put some numbers on it, we typically will do our normal daily walks that might be just a mile to get out to the wedding ponds. But on weekends, we're committed. And we'll go out sometimes and spend 3 or 4 hours in a spot, and she'll shoot in 3 hours, 2,000 photographs, and hopefully come back with a couple of good ones. And then meanwhile, I'm out like crawling in the mud, trying to be one with the snake so that I can experience nature at the snake's level. You will start doing all kinds of odd things when you really surrender to this nature thing and writing and recording and experiencing. We now have a fancy new audio recorder that we're still learning how to use. We'll see if I can do this without breaking it. I'd love to tell you that the Zoom H6 is the greatest thing ever, but I've only learned how to use about 2 of the 20 buttons on it. But we've been out in complete silence, just letting this pick up whatever it picks up. And you, again, will be amazed at whole new universes that open up to your eyes and your ears when you're out there.
Also, just one more tip about camera. If you don't have any, fancy, expensive camera, that's fine. Everybody has the iPhone and smartphone these days. I mean, Chris is just sometimes he captures the moment much better with the iPhone than what I could capture with my nicer camera, expensive camera. Because I think one thing that's really important, composition, that photography is just another way of painting. So you kind of design your screen, what you want to capture, and then you should get ready to be dirty. You go and you kind of go down to water, and so kind of if you have that approach, whatever device you have, you can really kind of make nice picture.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for y'all as well. One is, Wonok, I think this one's for you. Do you have a favorite photograph of the creek that you've ever taken?
I know I've got one of your favorites in my mind, the one we showed earlier.
I mean, obviously, the moment we captured the great blue heron for the first time, that was just so memorable. But then next time, when we met Norm, another one that was just I think after that, I think Norm may have visited one more time, and so every time I see this great blue heron, that's just kind of really exciting. And these days, I'm just constantly chasing the belted kingfisher, and it's just so quick, and then and I'm just like standing there to catch the moment. But that's something that I really love about.
Now, this is not Norm. No animal has ever been harmed in the course of anything that we're doing. But once you start photographing something, then you are sort of obligated to start collecting folk art that relates to it. We also have about a 400-pound cement heron at our front door. Being from Atlanta, his name is Hank Heron. That's hilarious. It'll catch up with you in just a minute. But we had to introduce you to this beautiful piece of work. What's next?
Okay, so I do have a follow-up question before Kate comes back. Chris, kind of along the same lines of the first question, do you have a favorite piece that you've written, or like what's like the one that touches your heart the most, the piece that you've written that you've loved the most about the creek?
I'm thinking about that because I have sort of 2 different reactions. From the poetic point of view, the day on January 1st with Anna was so awesome because it was so unexpected, and it was the inaugural day that we were formally trying to do something. And to spend 2 hours with her, I literally, that when we came home that morning, the journals that I showed you, I wrote 30 pages in my journal that day. Now, it's not uncommon for me because I have writing disease, but that's still a good day's work.
Also, to know that he always carries this while he's in outside. He actually writes everything.
I don't leave the house without a notebook. And by the way, you can get these. I hope I didn't have anything inappropriate on the other side of that. What is on the other side of this, just so I know what we just did? Oh yeah, notes from a guy who was standing in a creek teaching us about macroinvertebrates a few hours earlier. So from a poetry perspective, I'll never forget Anna for the rest of my life. From a keep me awake at night perspective, it's the pieces that we started to write about plastic pollution, because the bill that is out there, which is on hiatus at the moment, it really represents America's best chance to actually solve this. And it faces an uphill battle. But one of the things we learned from the story of plastic documentary was that there's so much that we the people can do. And we wrote about that too. And we were so excited about trying to get our community together around those ideas to do our part to make a difference in that way. So poetry and keeps me awake at night, the plastic that we need to get out of our creeks and rivers and oceans.
I agree. That keeps me up at night as well. A question that I actually have personally is, hearing kind of with your background of journalism and, you mentioned that you write different things, but that you have also submitted things. And, for some of our guests on here who may be thinking, I would like to submit an op-ed or a letter to the editor, or, I want to get my stuff out there. Do you have a piece of advice for those people of just where to start, or just like a couple tips?
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to say this. I recently got a new badge of honor, and I'm so happy to share my failure with the group as part of a lesson. I simultaneously, in the course of 8 days, had an op-ed rejected by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the LA Times, all in 8 days. And I want some applause, because I think there's something special about getting a rejection note from the 3 biggest newspapers in America within 8 days. So how do people get started? You can absolutely try to reach out to one of the biggest 3 media outlets in the country to get started. Or there are still some community newspapers left, and still some community blogs, and still independent bloggers who are just sharing their passion projects. If you don't have a lot of writing experience and you don't have that big resume yet, look for some opportunities to either start your own blog, find a blog that covers a subject that you're interested in. I'm sure if we reached out to the vultures of DC and said, hey, could we write a more expansive piece about vultures for you? That might be an opportunity. Really, it takes just a little bit of grunt work online. I mean, I've spent my days now, as I'm looking to restart my journalism career, really trying to find the right people to reach out to. But more than anything, the message that I would want people to hear is, don't let the idea of who you're going to pitch something to stop you from writing it. Write what's in your heart. Write what's in your heart about nature. Write about what makes your favorite place special. And then you'll be able to start to find places to submit it. And then, you don't necessarily have to shoot for multiple rejections in a week, but just the nature of the beast. And even when I freelanced full time, it was 90% rejections, 10% acceptance. And that's from someone who made a living at it. So just create, just produce, just get out there and do it.
Well, I can't lie and say that question didn't come from a place of having been rejected and going, there's got to be something that I'm missing here. And then I think that quote of, don't write with who you're going to pitch it to in mind, just allow yourself to feel. And that goes back to something, Wonok, I think a point you made earlier of, when you start to see nature through these different lenses, you start to relate to it so differently. And I think that piece of advice hit me really hard for my work, is just do it because you love it. You want to write about it, not necessarily looking that far down the road. Are there any other questions from your end, Bridget?
Yeah, I've got one more, and it's a personal question.
All right.
You guys keep talking about this podcast. I want to hear, do you have a date to start it, or where are we at on the planning process of that?
How do we subscribe?
Here's the thing, and let's talk about how Environment America is going to get involved to let us interview you. What do I know about podcasting? About as much as I know how to fix the engine in the truck that's outside in the front yard for our state liquidation company that's currently not operating. But am I going to let things like knowledge and details and experience stop me? No, never let things like that get in your way. Follow the passion. When Wonok created this website, it was the second site that she created. And let me just brag on her just a little bit. Years ago, I got laid off from a nonprofit, hard times for everybody at the time, and was a little burned out, to be honest, and wasn't quite sure that I wanted to go right back into the nonprofit sector, or at that time go back into the journalism sector. So I said, considering 20 years of experience in journalism and nonprofits, I said, hey, babe, what I want to do is I want to sell antiques and collectibles for a living. And she still has a great day job, thankfully. But do you mind just coming home, changing clothes, and helping me lift 18th century pump organs while I see if I can turn this into a living? And she said, sure. Now, what did we know about antiques and collectibles? Nothing. And 8 years later, we run a pretty successful business at it. So just create. Just go talk to Mother Nature and listen to what she has to say. And again, the idea of having sort of a regular route and looking at it through those new eyes and new ears, you will be amazed at how different a place is. And I can't get through a session without at least one more Thoreau quote, because Henry David Thoreau is my boy. But he wrote a lot about the joy of traveling at home. And in a coronavirus pandemic where we can't go anywhere, we would encourage you to start traveling at home and then seeing what you can do as a result.
You still didn't answer to her question.
I forgot the question. I got so fired up. What was the question?
Podcasting.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Creative mind. That's the danger of the creative mind. That's why we have this person and then why we have this person. So we've got the equipment. And I've read a whole bunch of stuff, and hopefully next week we're going to start to get some things together. We've got some people that we want to start interviewing, some experts about different things in our creek. We're going to do more Facebook Live broadcasting. That's something you can do too. Just take your camera, go get somebody who knows more than you do, in our case, not hard to find, and just go live and start getting people who know stuff to talk about stuff, and people will watch and listen. So we hope to have the podcast started in the next few weeks, and we would really love to interview you guys about the great work you're doing in Maryland that ultimately helps us protect our creek, because as Kate said, everybody protecting their stretch of creek is what's going to save the world. So the entire fate of the world now rests on the people on this call going out and proving Kate right. No pressure.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. It was incredibly inspirational and very relatable, as well as Kate and I are doing this conservation conversation. So thank you so much, y'all, for coming. Again, just make sure that you follow Environment Maryland, Environment Missouri, and Ion Sligo Creek. I mispronounced that. I'm so sorry.
IonSligoCreek.com.
That's it. All right. Sorry about that, guys. And thank you so much for coming. Kate, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, this has been great. Thank you everyone who joined both on the webinar and on Facebook Live. Remember to RSVP for next week as well. Next week's guest is going to sort of build off of this incredible foundation that Chris and Wonok have set for us as far as thinking through our creativity and how to just start helping. Chris and Wonok, we cannot thank you enough for the work you're doing and for joining us. Again, to reiterate, Bridget, go follow them on all the social media. And thank you all for
we can help. If anybody has any creative inkling, if you reach out to us, just email me, Chris, CHRIS, at IonSligoCreek.com. If you want help with something, I don't have anywhere else to be. We really want to help.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. Chris and Wonok, thank you. And if you have any questions, let us know.
Thank you.